Hello and welcome. This podcast is all about you. My name is Pat McKeown and I'll be your host. I started this podcast to record conversations with a wide variety of people about their emotional well-being. I want to inform myself and others about the universal human condition, to enable us to live more fulfilling lives with reduced emotional suffering. I also want to use the podcast to promote the philosophy of having nothing to hide when it comes to our innermost experiences. This is something I will try to embody as a host, and I will encourage my guests to be similarly forthcoming in the hope of having you, the listener, reveal your emotional self. After hearing about the depth and breadth of our guests' experiences, you will realise you too are not alone when experiencing your darkest and brightest moments. We can all be too hard on ourselves. Myself and my third guest, David Smith, are no different. After having a great conversation about David's emotional well-being, we whipped ourselves for being too serious and decided to record a second chat titled Episode 4.5. After editing the conversation, we felt that we had in fact had a fruitful chat on both occasions, and that both podcasts made for a good insight into David's emotional well-being and his philosophy on life. In Episode 4, myself and David talk about his experience with luck, education, maturity, as well as his love of journalism. In Episode 4.5, we discuss gallows humour, my sensitive side, crying, bereavement, and more. Please send your feedback on this conversation to the U Facebook page. It is with your insight that the U project can reach its fullest potential. And now, without further ado, here's David Smith. David Smith.
Hello, Pat.
This podcast is all about you.
God help me.
That's alright, you're obviously a bit nervous.
I'm grand now.
You're okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, before I hit the record button, you're feeling a bit anxious about revealing yourself. Have you revealed yourself emotionally to?
I'm glad you added in the emotionally there.
Yeah, I'm not asking, have you exposed yourself? Obviously you have a girlfriend that you love very much, and we've been great friends for a long time, and you're a very funny guy. But I suppose I've never seen an emotional side of you, or been exposed to that side, and I'm wondering what has your emotional well-being been like over the last 25 years? You're 25, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah. So, are there any experiences that are quite salient over the last 25 years, or?
Yeah, I'm probably lucky overall. Like, I've been generally I've had like privileged, happy life. Like a great family, great friends, great girlfriend. So I'm working, like I'm generally fairly happy, but obviously then everyone has tougher times or whatever, but in general I've been very lucky.
Yeah.
Always really. Like I think of a great support network from everyone, like home, like if I have a problem, mom or dad or any siblings, no bother. Just the friends as well, like they'd know or whatever. So I'm lucky that I have a lot of friends who just pick up the phone, make a call or whatever. Obviously girlfriend then as well, long-term girlfriend who knows me well and stuff like that. So generally like it's more up than down or whatever. So. And
would your girlfriend or your family have an insight into your life that, let's say, I wouldn't have or other people wouldn't have?
Probably would, I suppose, when you're spending that much time with them and stuff, but probably generally, like a lot of people, like you probably do try and internalise things and keep them to yourselves, like.
Yeah.
Like, I'd often think that I, not necessarily that I worry, but like, you wouldn't maybe not show it as much as, I think lads in particular, like you might be worried about little stupid, or not necessarily stupid things, but the general things, but you mightn't express it. So like you're saying, I haven't seen an emotional side to me, I probably haven't expressed it or whatever. But then obviously everyone always has their own things going on at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's obviously so important to talk then to your friends. But like, I suppose I have that, like I can talk to anyone anytime, and I generally would as well. Like it's rare that I'd kind of bottle everything up or.
So there are you do express yourself, So let's say your girlfriend and your family have an extra insight, because it's not as if you're a happy-go-lucky character all the time, which is kind of like the David Smith that I would know, which is great crack, So there is, you're not always like that, basically.
No, I don't think anyone is, like, really, but I suppose generally would like to think fairly happy and positive most of the time, but I don't know, I wouldn't have much of a problem, and I think we're lucky in our group of friends that, like, everyone's very accepting of, there's no, like, stigma or anything. I don't think in our particular group or whatever, or just in general, maybe it's our whole age group, I don't know, but, like, I never have an issue if I'm feeling down or if I'm worried about something at work or personal life or anything. Like, you have no problem saying it, from on the phone to friend, family, anything like that. So I think it's probably pretty lucky that way, but it's not
Brilliant.
Always happy-go-lucky all the time.
Yeah, well, I think it's largely a reflection on you as opposed to the group, as opposed to our friend group at large, particularly. We obviously share a lot of the same friends, and in the past, there have been experiences I have had in the past which I've kept quite secret from my friends, and even from my family, let's say. So, and we have very supportive friends, very loving friends, and much like yourself, I have a very supporting and loving family. But I was the barrier in expressing myself. So it would seem that where I lacked that courage originally and that confidence to be able to reveal my emotional side, you don't. Which is, you don't lack that courage or confidence, which is brilliant. Like, I think that's very, very, very good.
I think we get better. Well, I definitely got better at age. Probably when I was a teenager, I wasn't that expressive at all. Like, even to the family or anything, I would have bottled things up a lot more. If things were getting me down, I think that's natural. It is confidence and stuff when you're young. You're afraid to, I don't know, not open up or whatever, but I think that was just my natural tendency when I was a bit younger and as a teenager. But then, kind of as I've gotten older, you kind of learn how to deal with things a bit better.
Cool.
But then people always notice. Like, so I remember after I did the Leaving Cert, I went to college, didn't get the course I wanted to get. Kind of had a rough couple of months or whatever, and I remember saying to one of the lads afterwards, kind of when things picked up, just saying, wasn't really kind of in the best form or feeling myself last few months, and him saying, oh yeah, I know, or whatever. But and then it's only you look back and you would realise that your friends would do little things to try and help you, which you mightn't even notice at the time and stuff.
So without actually explicitly communicating to that specific friend, they had the insight because they knew your character and your personality that something was amiss? Yeah,
I think that's probably it. Whereas you might, I don't know if this is offensive, but you probably are quite good, or you've been used over the years of kind of internalising things, or like trying actively to hide it from people, whereas I probably don't have that capacity as much. Like, I think people would generally like even I think my mother would notice, generally would say to me, you're not in the best form, or or friends or someone would say, you're a bit down, or I think I was never that good at hiding it or whatever.
Well, being bad at hiding things is a good trait. Like, being good at hiding things is a negative trait. It's not something, I used to be, I suppose, quite good at hiding things from my friend group anyway. My family had that pretty much 24/7 insight that, oh well, something's up, and I suppose they knew the struggles that I was encountering personally, because a lot of the struggles were shared. Whereas I suppose that maybe I was good, in inverted commas, at hiding things from my friends, but that's not something I should be proud of. However, now I wear my heart on my sleeve. So if I'm angry, I'm kind of quite animated. If I'm happy, I'm quite animated. If I'm sad, I'm quite animated, and it's quite obvious. I'm an expressive character. You know that very well. I hope it's something that I like about myself, because I suppose my body language communicates my state of mind quite well in particular circumstances, but my expressive nature does mean I don't have a particularly stoic nature, and that I was discussing earlier with Cormac Ryan, another good friend of mine, about a friend I have whose baseline is he has quite a stoic baseline from which he does not fluctuate around much. He's just quite calm, considered, and cool. He is a cool guy. But when I consider myself, I consider I have, let's say, a base. If I had the same baseline, I'd be like a sine graph going up and down above it, because I have those kind of heights, those big highs of joy and those lows. Significant lows as well. So it's kind of a mixed bag. And if we were to look at, if we were to apply a similar graph to your emotional experience, you mentioned earlier that typically, you're quite high. Do you think your net experience would be, would have your baseline would be quite high, like you would have a happy experience, generally speaking?
I think so, yeah. Like, I could probably single out only a couple of times, like, ever really periods in the last, 5 or 10 years where I've felt particularly bad, or and they'd be not related to but they would be kind of obvious triggers to them, like changes or struggling for work or stuff like that. More so, whereas in general, I probably am, as you were saying, your other friend, probably a quite steady baseline overall, where I wouldn't fluctuate enormously either way, but probably gotten calmer and stuff as I got older. Probably as a teenager, I was definitely more up and down and stuff. Probably just immature or whatever, but probably is evened out a bit over time.
Yeah, and I suppose your maturation seems to have gone hand in hand with a more calmer attitude and a more expressive attitude as well. You mentioned how it's kind of become easier to share your emotions when you are suffering. But I suppose just when I'm listening to you there, immaturity sounds like it has a negative connotation, and I wouldn't like to label your past self as immature. I would. It's to me, it's more about you just didn't you weren't imbued with those tools which you've learned over time. I suppose now you are obviously more mature than you were, which isn't. I don't think that's necessitates the maturity level you had as being immature. It's just you experienced life differently, and I suppose now you experience it in a more healthy manner, which is more communicative, which is something to uphold, and I think that's great that you can share with your family and Hannah and with your friends when you feel it's important. One thing that strikes me about your character is that you're a very funny person. How important is humour in your daily life, and in how important a role does humour play in your emotional well-being?
Oh, huge. Enormous. I think my natural inclination is to kind of make jokes of things, or to slag myself or whatever. I enjoy all that kind of, don't like the word banter, but with the lads and stuff, we're well able to give and take, probably abuse a lot of us in the group, but I think it's huge. Probably the way I connect with a lot of my friends is through humour, and even if you haven't been talking to them, in a couple of days, you'll send them a humorous message or a funny story or whatever. So I think definitely, I think if you're making jokes and that, you're generally, it leads to happiness or whatever. They say laughter is the best cure or whatever. I'd be definitely think that humour, just in general, I love comedy. I love making jokes, hearing jokes, stuff like that. So it probably is a huge part of how I bond with friends or whoever. Yeah,
you took the words away. It seems to be a really important way of how you maintain your relationships, and it's definitely it's an important part of our relationship. Humour, we always joke and slag each other, abuse each other to outrageous lengths, which is fun because it's always met with a smile and a laugh after. I know you didn't get the undergraduate programme you wanted. What was the undergraduate programme you wanted?
I wanted to do... Well, actually, I had my heart set on PE with biology in DCU for a long time.
Okay.
I was just in my head, like, always loved sport, playing it, watching it, writing about it, everything. I actually didn't even really like biology that much, so it was probably the best decision. But just came to sixth year, and I remember going down to the open day in Galway. I'd heard about this creative writing course, and I always, like, English was always my favourite subject, and I always enjoyed writing and stuff. So I went down, and I just loved NUIG and the whole feel of Galway. Like, we'd gone there on a Leaving Cert holiday. I just loved the city, the whole atmosphere, everything. And I remember then around the same time going to DCU open day and I just didn't really feel anything about it. Like, I was just very, I don't know, it didn't impress me the same way Galway did. So I changed my CEO in a few months before leaving cert, put the creative writing course first. And I kind of had my heart and mind set on Galway then that I was going there. So I ended up, another course I'd heard good things about, kind of doing research. Like, I don't know where any of us at well informed. Like, it's huge decisions to be making when you're 18. And I ended up putting down probably the worst named course in the history of courses. Arts with Children's Studies was my backup one.
Arts with Children's Studies.
With Children's Studies, yes.
It's a humorous title.
It's not nearly as dodgy as it sounds or infers, but it's not the best.
It always gives me a good laugh.
Yeah.
But I think what's funny about it is that obviously you recognise the humour, and sure, we always joked about it over the years.
Everyone loves me having to tell people what the name of my course was.
Yeah,
it's generally the first introduction. Tell them what you studied in college.
Yeah.
So I narrowly missed out on, like, I was really happy, like, with my leaving cert when it came back or whatever, and I knew it was going to be touch and go, but I just missed out on the course, whatever. It kind of went up by a substantial amount that year, but I probably, like, I was feeling sorry for myself then, even more so than, like, I went down to Galway and I moved in with a couple of friends. I loved the crack. We partied a lot. It's just such a great, like, student city. And then I remember the rechecks came out, and I got a few things rechecked, and I was quite chatting to different teachers who were quite confident that, like, I might go up in a few subjects. So I maybe naively kind of got into the mindset of, I'm going to still get into this course, because it was in Galway, so it would have been just a small transition. But then another thing, so you did 2 art subjects with then the extra, which was creative writing, or the one I got into was children's studies. But I didn't realise at the time applying, which was either it wasn't made obvious enough, or as my own shortcomings I hadn't checked, that you couldn't study English with children's studies because they clashed on the timetable. So that was the art subject that I wanted to do, was English. So I suddenly found myself, instead of studying English creative writing and then another subject, I was studying, I couldn't do English or creative writing. So that really kind of annoyed me. So I ended up doing Irish and geography, neither of which set me. I wasn't too passionate about either of them, we'll say.
Yeah.
And then the rejects came out, and I didn't go up in anything, which was, probably took it more to heart than I expected I would. And then I remember a couple of our close friends calling me and saying, look, rechecks have come out, we're going to go back. One of my best friends said, look, I'm going to go back and repeat the leaving cert. And another lad who's actually at my house that night in Galway said the same thing. And I remember Mum ringing me and saying, you didn't get the course. She's like, do you want to drop out and repeat and go for it again next year? Because she knew I kind of wasn't really enjoying the course. Like, it wasn't the worst course, but I just don't really think it was the one for me then, when I kind of had my heart set on something else. And so I kind of had a real deliberation then for a little while of, will I do it or whatever. Eventually decided to stay in Galway, and I'm glad now that I did.
Yeah.
Definitely worked out. Like, the course kind of, it got better with time. I started to enjoy it a bit more, and it's probably, lecture attendance probably improved over time as well. And then I ended up getting great Erasmus through it. I got to move to Toronto for 4 months, which was an unbelievable experience. And then I still got into journalism, which was the initial aim anyway. So, like, I did it the long way, but I'm still glad I had those 4 years in Galway, because, like, I wouldn't trade them for anything at the same time. So it did work out pretty well, but there was definitely a couple of months that it was kind of, it was a change, and I was coming out of a kind of a long-term relationship and stuff at the time, and you weren't seeing your friends as much. They were all over the country and probably going out drinking a lot, not really enjoying, not caring about college really for a while. So that was probably, took a bit of adjustment, but it all worked out then in the end. So it was,
brilliant. I think You mentioned when the CEO results came out that you were feeling sorry for yourself, and it seemed to be framed in a negative context. What do you mean by feeling sorry for yourself?
Well, I probably took it too much to heart. Like, you're obviously going to get these knocks in life and things, whereas I was probably just dwelling on it too much. Whereas once I actually let go of, look, you didn't get the course. Like, I remember it was like, whatever, I was just felt, particularly my bad luck that the course, it was the only year, say, that the course had gone up so much that I couldn't have got it. Like my CEO points or whatever would have gotten that course any other year, that year. So I remember it's kind of like, just my luck or whatever.
Yeah.
But then once I let go of that kind of dwelling on it, I was much happier then in my new course and stuff.
Yeah.
But I just think possibly like feeling sorry for myself, saying, "Oh, this is just my luck, and I want to do this course," and nearly making myself miserable about it. Whereas once I just embraced it and said, "Look, I can finish this course." I remember Mum saying, "Then shut up, do it till the end of the year, and then if you're not happy, you can switch into another course or whatever."
Yeah.
And then I was happy to stick with it. Then, by the time that came, so.
Well, I think it's okay to have that remorse and that anxiety and that frustration about, if it was any other year, isn't this typical? Classic me getting done out of it. That's all right. It's okay to feel those emotions. I think we can whip ourselves a lot when, especially, I would frame it in my own personal experience similarly to you, like, feeling sorry for myself. Well, listen, it's all right to feel sorry for yourself. It's no big deal. Like, you're not a bad person for feeling sorry for yourself. It's brilliant that you were able to realize, what I'm doing for myself isn't really helping. Perhaps I should, readjust my thinking on the idea and be able to rationalize my experience into a more positive light. That's very important. But it is all right to feel frustrated and not to kind of reject that feeling, because that's all right. That's normal. It's normal to get pissed off when shit doesn't go as you were anticipating it, especially when you have the leaving cert involved. It's such a stressful event in any student's life, and there's so much preparation and study, and and there's a waiting period as well, like those few months, and you're like, I got good points, and the course went up. I think that's all right. So a really cool thing that Cormac Ryan, the same guy I mentioned earlier, said in an article in his Cashface story, actually from 2015, was that it's not courageous to just get on with things and just ignore what you're feeling and just get on through it. Real courage lies in kind of realizing you're feeling a certain way, letting yourself feel that way, but then expressing yourself, like actually sharing that experience. That's courage. It's not courageous to plough on through things and ignore all the feelings in your mind. What's courageous is to let yourself feel those painful things and then express it with those around you. Like that, I think that shows true courage. So it's deadly that you're able to talk about that today, and it is all right. Like it's okay to have felt that way, So ultimately, you got your goal of journalism,
absolutely,
of learning some creative writing, and about the English language. So, how would you reflect on your undergraduate experience, those few years, in terms of informing your lifestyle and kind of, did the academics really enlighten you, or was it more the overall holistic experience?
Oh, definitely the holistic experience. Like the academics, I really enjoyed my Erasmus, the same, but I got to do a lot of literature modules and stuff there, and child literature and stuff, that more stuff I was interested in. Some of the children's studies stuff was really challenging, and it was all about challenging like the frameworks of teaching and what's the best way of learning and stuff. So some of it was like, I was interested in a lot of it, but I went to an Irish primary school, and like I have a lot of time for the Irish language and think like it's unbelievably important, but I didn't like the way it was like I just didn't wasn't for me learning as a language in college. I just didn't really engage with it, or probably didn't care that much about it or enjoy the way it was taught. Like geography was the same, unbelievably hit and miss the subject. So like I wasn't that passionate about the college side, but like I made unbelievable friends down there. Loved the city, like it was a great experience with great social life, to put it mildly. So like all that stuff, like I definitely wouldn't change Galway for anything. Like I'd move to Galway in the morning happily. But and it all definitely, like I remember the reason I didn't go straight into journalism was I was told, whether rightly or wrongly, like career guidance people said, you know, don't go straight into it, you're better come into it with a broader kind of degree behind you or whatever, which is whatever, like whether you want to do that or not. But I think it definitely did make me, I was more ready for it then. Like I started doing a good bit of writing in final year and stuff, and then I was kind of more ready, I think, for the masters.
In relation to the social side of things, one of my favourite quotes comes from a mutual friend of ours, and he said that he might have got a 2-2 in his degree, but he got a 1-1 in having the crack.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's a very important thing. You know, so often I think third level education isn't about the academics. It's pretty much not at all about the academics. It's all about we'll give it kind of a wishy-washy phrase of the holistic experience. It's about meeting friends, meeting differently minded people, broadening your horizons, moving away from home, exploring different hobbies and opportunities and stuff.
Absolutely. You learn so much. Like you're coming from this huge all-male secondary school where basically you're living at home, you have everything done for you, and then it's me and one of our mutual friends would say we were like, it was like, you know, Madagascar, where he's living in the zoo and then he's released into the wild. He doesn't know how to cope. That was basically us in first year in college. We were just released into the wild and embraced it. But like it was great shit. Like it's all those little skills you learn and stuff that you take for granted at the time, but they're all more essential. Like the academics certainly in the undergrad were fair enough down my priority list, to be honest.
Yeah, you reference skills there. What skills are you referring to?
Like you just learn to fend for yourself, and just you meet so many people and different perspectives and things. Like you're making such good friends and sharing all these kind of experiences and stuff. So like I think it's a great time. Like it is probably like, you know, everyone says the thing, the college will never get better than this, but like that's probably a poor way to phrase it, but like it is, they are such carefree years. So like to go back in undergraduate, I think, you know, people might say, oh, if I worked a bit hard I could have got a 2-1 instead of a 2-2, but ultimately does it really matter unless it's directly affecting what you go into next or stopping you from doing something? I'd very much be the 1-1 in the crack category.
yeah. From the few days I had in Galway, if I was to be examined on those times, I definitely got 1-1 in having the crack. It was a great place. So from there, I suppose you develop socially and you mature, like learning skills, like you're cooking for yourself and stuff.
I don't know about matured. That must be too strong a term.
Yeah, but I
got older.
Yeah, you got older, and then I suppose that geared you up quite well for the masters. Ironically, despite the quite pointed advice you might have gotten from career guidance, broaden your horizons before you do journalism. Anyway, so how was journalism? What was your experience like studying that?
It was great. It was really good. I really it was such a contrast to my undergrad. Like even though I wasn't commuting and living up, it was a very different experience. Or sorry, I was commuting. I wasn't living in Dublin or anything. I was coming up and down to DCU, but I was actually enthusiastic about going. Well, obviously not every day or not in college, but I was enjoying a lot of elements of the course, and I remember the day I found out I got the masters, I was absolutely over the moon. I was flat out doing my thesis and applying for all these deadlines for masters, kind of thinking, I was heading away to San Francisco for the summer, and I was thinking, what am I going to do when I come back? If I don't have a masters, what's my next step? I don't really want to go into Irish. I didn't feel like teaching. I thought maybe I could do it, but I won't be excited about doing it if I come home, or at this point in time, definitely. And then, it was great. I arrived home. I had this summer, it was perfect in America to just chill out after, final year or whatever. And then I went straight into the masters, and that was great. It's always what I've enjoyed doing, writing and especially like the sports and stuff, and that's allowed me to kind of do it full time. The masters, like, it was a year of intense learning, but like it was definitely very beneficial. It was very hands on and practical.
And what is it about journalism and the English language that it makes you excited, or that you know, what is your obsession? How does it inform your experiences?
That's a good question. I suppose, I don't know, I've always loved, like, I was such a nerd as a child, like such an avid reader, and I always loved writing and stuff, even in school, if it was still short stories, whatever, in secondary school, and always obviously obsessed with sport, playing it, watching it, like, you know, listening to it. Like, you never get enough of analysis or like stats or tactical stuff, so I always thought like that would just be the dream, to write about stuff like that for a living, or, you know, covering big stories or news or whatever it was. Just the whole aspect of news and journalism, it really appealed to me always. And then, I don't know, I just find it like I get such a like buzz out of still even writing articles or like making podcasts. It's great, or, you know, attending sporting events, or like getting an interview with someone. Like, it's still just, the buzz hasn't worn off at all, kind of. Like, I think I'm definitely in the right career for me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and so you obviously enjoy writing articles about sport, and I know you've written articles about movies and stuff as well. When it comes to creative and expressive writing, have you done anything like that?
I would have done like I suppose when I was applying for masters, I wanted to have as much in the CV as possible. I did a couple of like just creative courses and stuff online, and I do a bit like of, you know, like if I go travelling, I'll keep, you know, write a bit or whatever. And I would do a bit of that, yeah, but like it's hard to find time at the minute when I'm working 5 days a week, or I could be blogging matches at the weekend, or
yeah,
and I'm trying to look after 2 sports websites as well. So it's kind of all your energy and your mindset is all towards that kind of stuff,
yeah,
rather than like you don't really get the time to sit.
So you don't. It's not a priority, but it sense like you don't keep a diary or something.
No, I wouldn't really, but like I do, and I'd love to, like, you know, I'd love to write a book or whatever. Like,
okay,
in the ideal scenario,
okay,
where like I really enjoy that sort of creative writing, but at the minute it's very much focused on, it's just work kind of thing.
And was the bit of creative writing and expressive writing you have done in the past, does it mirror your spoken character, like the character that we talked about earlier, the one that your friends know, and that your family know, and that your girlfriend knows, or is there something more revealing in your expressive writing? Like, would there be something that you would be more comfortable putting on the page as opposed on something you would tell me today?
Probably would, but like it depends what type of, like, I always liked just writing stupid short stories and fiction, never more so than like, you know, say Leaving Cert or any of those exams. I was never the one to write the big personal essay about, you know, that sort of stuff. I'd be more like, let's write a thrilling,
wacky
short story or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but I suppose you would, like, you can't feel comfortable writing, or you might, opinion really, like even a lot of the sports articles, you're just giving your opinion. You're writing, like someone was saying to me recently, you write for yourself, who runs another website, you write for yourself as much as anyone else.
Yeah.
To enjoy it. So
yeah,
like there's no point doing it if you're not enjoying it.
Yeah.
Like there's ever a day where I'm writing things and thinking, oh, like it's time to leave journalism probably. Or you know, branch out into something else.
Try something new. Yeah. You mainly discuss sports. I know that you run 2 websites. Their names are
the Season Ticket, which is a website I set up with a couple of lads in the Masters. We actually had just met, none of us had known each other previously, and kind of we had a shared interest in similar kind of, you know, I think a lot of sports fans, well, some anyway, don't tarnish everyone the same brush with, would be kind of disillusioned with the kind of clickbait short. We just collectively kind of had this idea that we like long form stuff, so we created this website. At the time, it was probably just more so for this week grand on the CV. We're doing the Masters, you know, we can write any articles we did in class. But then, kind of grew legs, and like we're all enjoying it, so we've kind of kept that going. So, trying to expand that all the time and kind of take it up levels, which is hard when you're working full time as well. And then the other website is I'm just looking after You Boys in Green, It's another Irish fans, like Irish soccer fans website kind of, for Republic of Ireland fans, like travelling to and from games, and there's forums and stuff on it as well. So I'm just looking after that for another journalist kind of at the minute.
Yeah.
But between those two and then the jobs, like the 5-day-a-week job and then your freelance stuff,
you're a busy man.
I'm a busy man, yeah.
Yeah. So now listen, I know your expertise is largely in sports journalism, but I was wondering, do you have an opinion on how important the language journalists use when they're discussing sensitive topics? So something like, suicide or something. Do you think, how do you feel about the language people use to talk about these things? Because I personally feel that people are very careful about what they say, and maybe sometimes too careful, and it can be a little bit whitewashed, or there can be, I feel, maybe very little innovation when it comes to talking about sensitive topics, and it's just kind of the same thing you hear over and over. How do you feel about journalism surrounding sensitive topics and the language that's used?
It's tough. It probably depends case to case and stuff as well. Like, you probably, like, a lot of people it depends if it's about specific cases. There's all legal requirements and things in respect to families and individuals to consider and stuff like that. So I suppose it depends on the case, but in general, it is great that, or it should be great that people can open up. Like, I think a lot of journalists will, like, every journalist is different, but like some people will be unbelievably open and delve really deep into even the sensitive topics, like no holds barred, whereas others will take a more cautious approach. So it kind of depends what you're reading, or who's writing it, really, or what the publication is, or what the guidelines are. So
you don't necessarily think there's a culture of a vocabulary being used for a particular subject, and if you venture outside that vocabulary, then you're being a bit too risque talking about.
Well, I don't know. It's difficult in the current kind of social media, almost mob mentality at times. Like, I think everyone's entitled to their opinion, and if they want to phrase things, but you obviously have to be respectful. And
of course,
every little thing is magnified by everything is just scrutinised now, every word. So, like, obviously, the big thing now is not the big thing. Like, a huge topic at the minute is obviously the repeal the 8 thing and all that. But I just feel everyone should be entitled to their opinion, either side. That's just a very basic, well-known example. But on all these issues, like, you should be allowed to make your point. I feel kind of at the minute, like, people are so quick to seize on any little thing and trying to turn it and twist it to your advantage. Whereas, as you said, like, you should be allowed to use different vocabularies and be a bit more risky, but are you going to be criticised for doing that? That's the question then for different people. Like, are they able to discuss things differently? Or
yeah. Like, for instance, I despise clickbait and stuff, and I also think that the language used to articulate the world of what I describe as emotional well-being can drastically improve. And I think it's all a little bit stale and vanilla and overly clinical. So that's why I try and stray away from the phrase mental health. I feel like that's like a phrase taken out of a medical diagnostic book. So I try and be a bit more inclusive to those who hear mental health and go, like, what's that all about? And just talk about emotional well-being, which I think is maybe a little bit more relatable. And maybe I'm amiss, but so how do you feel about political correctness when it comes to emotional well-being and journalism?
It depends. It's definitely a tricky one. I think things possibly are gone too politically correct. Like, I think you should be allowed to express your opinions, whereas there's almost like a thing now where it's gone the other way, where unless you conform to the general politically correct opinion that you're wrong and oh my god, you're such a bigot, or you're so backwards, how can you think this way? Whereas I think people should be, the whole point of it is that people are entitled to their opinion or whatever. But it's definitely a tricky one. As far as, I wouldn't know that much probably about how emotional well-being is covered on a wide scale, like just whatever things, I'd see with Cash Face and things like that, but I wouldn't be probably aware of I wouldn't be well enough informed on that to pass comment.
Not even journalism about emotional well-being, but I mean how political correctness on any topic might affect one's emotional well-being. So, for instance, I think sometimes people are maybe overprotected when it comes to political correctness. So there are certain things you don't say for fear of, upsetting somebody maybe. Now, the last thing I want to ever do is upset somebody, but at the same time, I want to be honest. So I'm going to frame my whole philosophy of having nothing to hide with being appropriate. So if I've exercised as much caution as I possibly can, and I've also revealed all my ideas on something, I'm sorry if that offends you or that upsets you or makes you sad or angry or anxious. But, ultimately, like I have done my best, and if my best wasn't good enough for you in that instance, perhaps the onus is on you to inform me as to maybe a better framework or a better approach to being more appropriate. So, not necessarily journalism about emotional well-being, but how do you think the whole idea of political correctness and journalism as a whole, how do you feel about it in terms of it affecting other people's emotional well-being?
Yeah,
Is it something you're careful about or very conscious of when you're writing?
It depends. You see, I suppose a lot of my writing is sports related, so the political correctness is taken out of that. It's very much opinion sports writing, and it's probably you're dealing with generally less controversial or sensitive topics. It's more kind of analysis or opinion or tactics or whatever you're discussing. But definitely the political correctness thing that's a tricky one to get into. But I think definitely I would agree with what you're saying. Like, people are always going to have differing opinions, but maybe it is kind of getting to a stage now with just people on social media and kind of things taken off, and I think people are too protected or too sensitive about certain things, like whereas it's obviously in their nature to challenge things and to try and look at things from a different way, which I think is completely healthy.
Yeah, cheers. So, on another note, what personal and professional goals do you have?
Well, I suppose obviously the dream scenario is to take the website to a place where you could do that full time. It's probably might be unrealistic, but as my football manager said recently, if you don't dream the dream, you can't live the dream. So you may as well aim big. Ideally it might be 40, it might be 50, it might be 85 by the time it happens. But you'd love to. I'm probably playing football on the moon or something by the time it happens. But ideally, you'd love to, or at least have it. Like a part of your income or whatever, like that'd be ideal. Then probably in the terms of the day job, obviously journalism can be not the most secure field, so I've been kind of predominantly working freelance contracts for different places, so it would be nice to, I suppose, get a bit more security, maybe a full-time contract somewhere, or move up the ranks. I'm relatively new into it, like I've only been in my current job a year or whatever, so I'm really enjoying it, and it's great, and there is scope for kind of advancing, which is great. And then I suppose personally, then I love to travel and stuff, so I enjoy probably maybe in the next couple of years taking a year out even and just stepping away from it all to work for a while and just going travelling to somewhere completely different culture. But yeah, I suppose I'm really enjoying journalism at the minute, so it's something I want to definitely stay in and see where it goes. It's such a fluid environment now with modern journalism and technology where, I'm even within work, I'm working on, it's nice to have the websites because you have your writing, your core thing that ideally you'd love to go into full time down the road, but it's nice then to, play around video technology and all different things in work then as well. So
yeah. And moving away from your professional ambition, have you any specific personal goals for your, to inform your happiness, to inform your well-being?
I suppose I'm I'm quite happy probably in personal life at the minute. Like, it's great, as I said, to get away from the work, but like it's good to have that steady income and work that like you're not worried about that. There's a stage probably just a little over a year ago where a lot of us in the group when the kind of just living at home, like we were all kind of struggling for work, and you know, it was kind of like winter months, so you're all kind of impatient and kind of a bit worried about the future. But I think we've all, like, things have been kind to us. We're all like, it's great that I'm living with my friends now in Dublin, working away. I suppose personal goals that would lead to happiness, just plenty of travel. Like, it's nice, I'm going on holidays next week. I'm lucky enough to be doing that. I'm planning a trip to South America in the summer, which I'm looking forward to. And then I suppose a lot of travelling. I'd like to get back playing a bit more sport. It's hard obviously with the hours I work, but I'd definitely like to try and do that a bit more down the line, because I do miss that. And yeah, in general, I suppose just keep things going the way they are. Once I'm happy and healthy, I'll be alright.
Nice. And before we wrap up, I have a couple of fairly random questions. So
what am I in for here?
on reflection over the last 25 years, are there any events that have that have significant emotional salience? I know we talked about the CAO and the leaving cert and going into college, but outside of academia and professional life, has there been anything that has drastically informed your emotional life? Have you struggled with grief or any particularly difficult times through childhood or teenage life or adult life?
I've been extremely lucky in that regard, in terms of kind of personal tragedies and stuff. Like, I have 3 healthy siblings. I've my 2 parents. It's actually my granddad's 9th anniversary today. He passed away. So that's probably the biggest, bereavement I had in my life. So I've been extremely lucky that way. I haven't had any major things, like obviously maybe people around me have, or people in the locality or whatever, but I've been extremely lucky that way. I haven't had any hugely traumatic experiences or anything like that.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, listen, man, that's brilliant. And you seem to have quite a confident nature about you anyway. So even if you were to encounter difficulty in the future, that you have an emotional resilience and those tools of revealing your struggles to those you care about if you are struggling, so that it's unlikely that you will experience maybe sincere pits of despair. But you're bereft of your grandfather, in your mid-teens, so I think you're able to relate to. We're all able to relate to each other on a human level. I think sometimes people can undervalue their own experience when it comes to speaking to those they care about who may be struggling emotionally, because we think, oh, listen, I don't know what they're going through because I've never suffered with depression, or I've never had an anxiety attack, or I've never had any really significant event in my life that was really hurtful or that made me suffer. That's not a prerequisite for human understanding and compassion with other people. So to those who are listening, I would say that if you're like David, don't underplay your own insight into the human condition, because we all have shared experiences and we can all help each other out when we are suffering. And an obscure question about the present day, is there anything that disappoints you?
God, where to start? Liverpool, generally. I know. Actually, no, they're having a good season. Mead, I know. I suppose probably certain nature of like clickbait kind of journalism and stuff. Like, it is kind of frustrating to go into, like, for people who've kind of studied it, and then you see some questionable I don't want to bash anyone in particular, but like obviously there is like clickbait and stuff like that from a, like, I suppose, journalistic thing that's probably just it is the modern way, so it's kind of, but maybe it's just being naive or being too much of a purist, but like it's good to see some kind of really informative and like really good publications are doing well now stuff as well. So I suppose I'm pretty happy at the minute though in general. Not disappointed by too much.
The lack
that
of
matters.
the lack of journalistic integrity upsets you.
Yeah, that's well put. That's only in some quarters though. It's just kind of the way things are. I suppose in sports journalism it's particularly noticeable. There is kind of a gulf between maybe the top drawer stuff, and then there is a lot of clickbait and
whose biceps are these county players.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
You'll never guess the size of number 5s.
Wouldn't be my cup of tea, but look, that's people are obviously clicking it, and so hopefully that changes and there is more of a traditional journalism does come out on top or whatever. Yeah, hopefully for my career.
And clickbait is possibly something I'm going to indulge in the relatively near future. I'd be interested to get your opinion on it. I've written an essay kind of bemoaning the use of the clinical phrases like mental health and depression and anxiety, and how they're at the forefront of our conversation around our emotional experiences. And I think it, personally, I describe in the essay how I think it removes understandable human experience from the phenomena, and it makes it kind of alien, and it labels it. So I have a little article that I'm proud of, which I could headline with, why the conversation surrounding our emotional selves needs to evolve.
Yeah,
a pretty good summary of what's going to follow. But I think I'm going to label it "Why Mental Health Promotion is Useless!" ! Click here to find out, kind of thing. The idea being that I'm confident that will have a wider reach, but at the same time, I do feel like I'm lacking that journalistic integrity. But I want people to hear what I have to say, and I think there's one headline which is accurate, but isn't that attention grabbing, and there's another headline that is attention grabbing, but has little to no integrity in it. How would you feel about that dilemma?
There's a fine line. I think there's a way of headlining things that can be clever and engaging, but I personally don't like things that are misleading. So if I click into something that advertises one thing, I don't want to open it and say, what's going on here? It's completely different to what I've been led to believe I'm clicking into. So I think there is a fine line there. And if it's quality, you have to trust that people will, ideally will engage with it anyway. Particularly for something like this, where it's exploring a particular like emotional well-being, which you'd imagine the people who are engaging and who are going to read it anyway off your page and stuff, these are people who are passionate about this and understand this. So I think they'd be willing to read something like that. But sometimes these clickbaity headlines can cheapen it, or it might, personally, it would probably irritate me straight away if I clicked in and I saw, oh, this isn't actually at all what was advertised to me. Whereas if I clicked in and it was a really well articulated, well written thing, I would be really impressed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That is a tough thing about algorithms and social media and all this, that you want to reach as many people as possible, but are you willing to
sell your
mislead?
Soul to the devil?
Yeah. Are you willing to go to hell for your crime? No. Are you willing to possibly cheapen it by having a misleading headline, or would you be better off just coming up with maybe a clever headline, like something in between the two?
Yeah.
Or like picking the angle, the best couple of lines to engage someone to put above the article. Yeah, that's why they'll click into it. But it's a personal taste. Like, I'm no lawmaker.
You are the authority. You have a master's in journalism.
Big Brother is watching. But it's each of their own. But that would be, you ask for my take on it. That'd be my personal.
Thank you, David Smith. This podcast is all about you.
Thanks, Pat.
An absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me.